battle for control of the internet is on, and it's no game. Under attack, Microsoft, the giant corporation whose computer operating systems dominate the entire market. Venture capitalist Derek Prudian.
As one person put it to me, Microsoft's not just the biggest fish in the sea, they're the water we swim in.
Prudian is CEO of Zip2, a California company that provides online access to information about cities around the country. Everything from where to eat to how to get around.
You imagine the possibilities, but...
The company's chief engineer and founder is 27-year-old Elon Musk. And how old were you when you started this company, or what became this company?
23.
It's a classic Silicon Valley story. Before there was the vintage Jaguar, the six-figure salary, the cute dog, and the nice house to share with the pretty girlfriend, there was the $200 a month office with the leaky roof.
It was just the nastiest place you can imagine.
And you lived in it too?
And I lived in it too, and showered at the YMCA.
Now Musk has his own computer command center, and his business is thriving. To his delight, Microsoft has tried and so far failed to get a hold in Zip2's market. You always keep an eye on them, though.
You bet.
And everyone in Silicon Valley is keeping an eye on the battleground a continent away at the federal courthouse in Washington. It's here where it will be decided whether Microsoft and its founder, Bill Gates,
I don't remember sending it.
are our generation's equivalent of John D. Rockefeller and his Standard Oil, the monopoly the government broke up in a landmark case that really started antitrust enforcement at the dawn of the century. Leading the charge this time is the Justice Department's chief trust buster, Joel Klein. He claims Microsoft has bullied and intimidated a wide array of high-tech firms.
We will show a significant effort to stifle competition, harm consumers, and prevent the market from having people compete on the merits.
Defending Microsoft, attorney Bill Newcomb.
Show that Microsoft is a vigorous but a very fair competitor, and that as a result of our competition and our innovation, customers have benefited by getting better technology quicker and at lower prices.
In an important example, Microsoft did streamline things for consumers by adding, for free, its browser, known as Internet Explorer, to its popular Windows operating system. The browser is basically a navigation system that helps you connect with the information you want on the internet. But the government complains that by bundling or tying its browser to its other products, Microsoft denied consumers a choice and unfairly blocked another company, Netscape, from marketing its own browser.
Microsoft should not be allowed to own the browser market. If they do that, then they will own the gateway to the internet for every consumer, and that is almost certainly likely to result in a less valuable experience for the consumer.
Not everyone agrees.
If you're not willing to engage in competition, why are you in Silicon Valley?
T.J. Rogers, founder and CEO of Cypress Semiconductors.
The man who started Netscape became multi-10 millionaires overnight, and now they're whining and crying because Microsoft has it for us and just went whack and said, here it is, a better software package, not just a browser, but everything you want, guaranteed to work in one package, running on your computer, $99. What do you think?
Well, some competitors think Microsoft's tactics are unfair.
Show me the money! Everybody yell, show me the money!
Peter Doherty owns Digital Bitcasting, a small Massachusetts company that makes software that channels audio and video onto the computer screen. There are some people out there who paint Microsoft as sort of a benevolent dictator. Why do you think that is?
The man who runs the company sets the tone for the company, and I think that's true in most companies.
What do you think the tone is of that company?
I think it's an extremely aggressive, intelligent. So I think the reality is, in regards to Microsoft, that they're not a benevolent company.
Doherty has felt the brunt of Microsoft competition.
Microsoft comes along and they have the Windows Media Player, and it It's what's called overwriting our technology, so you can no longer use our technology.
So Microsoft's software, once it was loaded on, basically disabled your technology or overrode it.
Exactly.
Why would the consumer care?
An end user has paid for our software. They're used to using it. They should have the right to be able to use it.
Some serious math involved in that.
In fact, Doherty has now channeled his business into areas that don't directly compete with Microsoft. And though he generally dislikes government intervention, he thinks it may be needed to control Microsoft.
They're the killer whale in our business. So I do think the government is going to have to be involved.
A successful attack on Microsoft by the government says improving your products, making things better, making them cheaper is against the law. And I think that's immoral and un-American.
Back in 1969, the Justice Department filed another big antitrust suit that rocked the computer industry. Then the target was IBM. The case dragged on for 13 years until the government finally dropped it. And there's one thing that Peter Doherty and T.J. Rogers do agree on, that even without government intervention, like IBM, Microsoft could still eventually fall of its own weight.
IBM was large. Some people thought they were arrogant, but what happened was, for example, IBM brought out the personal computer. And then other companies like Apple Computer, for example, said, we have a better idea, we'll make it more user-friendly. And now today, IBM, instead of owning the personal computer industry, is one of the players, not even the leading one or number one or number two.
We certainly hope to increase the...
There are so many scenarios of how the Microsoft case could conclude that none of the experts will predict an outcome. And many in the scrappy computer industry that prides itself on rewarding innovation say they haven't chosen sides in the U.S. versus Microsoft battle. Derek Prudian.
It's a delicate ecosystem. The government could, with too heavy-handed an approach, create barriers or stifle that climate. Similarly, a large player like Microsoft, if it was too heavy-handed, could also stymie that environment.
And so, in the world of Bill Gates, Peter Doherty, T.J. Rogers, and young Elon Musk, there is a brooding anxiety over the landmark trial that will map out the rules of the road to the internet.
Remember that old New Yorker cartoon? On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. But in the real world, some of the internet's most influential and successful forces have their own version of that line. On the internet, nobody knows you're a teenager.
I started Netscape when I was 14. Basically, I had an internship there.
Meet Blake Ross. By the ripe old age of 19, he had co-written a new web browser called Firefox. It's so good, 50 million people installed it in its first 6 months. And it stole 10% of the market away from Microsoft's browser, Internet Explorer.
We want you to start up the web browser and be able to surf the web without worrying about spyware, without worrying about viruses, without worrying about pop-up ads.
Firefox is free, but 21-year-old Mark Zuckerberg turned his little web experiment into a very big business. It's called thefacebook.com, and it's like no college directory you've ever seen.
For example, you can take a person and look them up, and you can get a picture of how they'd like to portray themselves in addition to, say, the courses that they're taking, sports teams, clubs that they're a part of, and who their friends are at the school. But I think that there's a lot of times where people will just go out, meet someone, say, okay, I don't know that much about this person, and they'll go back to their room and do what people call Facebook them, which is go on the Facebook and look them up just to kind of see the snapshot of what they have.
In less than 1 year, the Facebook.com has become an addictive part of everyday college life.
We've gone from having around 150,000 people in the fall to right around 3 million now. So it's pretty cool.
But not as cool as this, $13 million of investment capital.
we get a lot of feedback saying like how much people love the site. I get a couple of marriage proposals each day.
3, 2.
Robin Liss is a junior at Tufts University. She runs camcorderinfo.com, the internet's #1 source of camcorder information and reviews. She posted her first article online when she was 10.
I was playing around with my mom's huge Panasonic VHS camcorder making claymation videos. I wrote an article on how to make a video for under $100, and like 70 people read it, and I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever.
Her audience is slightly bigger today.
CamcorderInfo.com is the largest camcorder review publication in the United States, online or off. We reach about 300,000 people every single month.
Finally, meet Wayne Chang. He's the creator of i2 Hub, a super high-speed communications network that lets college students across the country collaborate and share computer files.
In March, over 8 million hours were spent on i2 Hub by students across the nation. About 1,800 schools have requested to join the network.
4 internet pioneers, each of whom began changing the face of online business and culture when most teenagers were just happy to get their driver's licenses. How did they do it? Rule number 1, get an early start.
At the age of 7, I got my first computer.
When i2 Hub's Wayne Chang immigrated from Taiwan, he could barely speak English.
And the fact that I had a language limitation at the time prohibited me from basically making friends easily. So that means I had a lot of time on the computer. And at the age of 11, I got my first job with a corporation in California.
I got my first computer when I was, I guess, around 6th grade. And within weeks of getting it, I was like, all right, I want to learn how to program. This is pretty sweet.
Rule number 2, exploit the anonymity of the internet.
Between email and the phone and a website, no one has to know how old I am. And what it allowed me to do, I think, is develop credibility based on our product alone.
I think the internet is really the great equalizer. It really levels the playing field. It doesn't matter if it came from a 50-year-old experienced software developer in Redmond, or it came from a 19-year-old kid in California. If it's good software, people will use it. So there's nothing stopping people.
Dustin just launched 100 schools a couple of days ago, so he's passed out. But
Rule number 3, get good help.
Dude, what's up? Dude, you're on TV.
For the Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, that would be his Harvard roommate, Dustin.
So he kind of took it on himself to learn programming, and so he went home for the weekend, came back, and was like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Blake Ross led a slightly bigger team for Firefox, tens of thousands of volunteers working together as part of what's called the open source movement.
And basically what this means is that people in Europe can be coordinating with people in the United States, can be coordinating with people in Africa, all putting the user input into this browser. They can submit actual code to improve the product. It's really a global effort.
Rule number 4, exploit your youth.
The way that I can be unique is by kind of just being creative and kind of reveling in being young and just being a little crazy. So, for example, there's this feature called poking, where you just go to someone's profile and you could poke the person. And like, what does that do? Nothing. It sends them a message. It's like, you've been poked. You know, like, who cares? You know, I mean, it's like, I thought about it when I was drunk or something, you know, and like, people really like poking each other for some reason that, you know, I don't think anyone can really explain.
And finally, rule number 5, be willing to make some sacrifices. How much time do you actually get to spend in this bed?
I get something like 5 or 6 hours a night. I generally try to have breakfast and then go to sleep and wake up around noon.
If you give up social life for the time to work, and then you go to bed at 2, and you wake up 4 hours later to go back to school.
I mean, I think the thing I'd sacrifice more than anything else is sleep.
I didn't sleep much either, and my girlfriend is no longer my girlfriend. But,
So what drives these young geniuses to sacrifice so much? Sometimes it's money. Now, I read in an interview where you have a goal to become a millionaire by 26. How's that going?
It's going actually pretty well. The actual goal is 24.
I missed class. Did he get...
Sometimes it's the chance to learn while the consequences are still small.
Yeah, you can write on whatever you want.
Do you have the assignment?
There's no assignment.
I'm not an expert at anything. I mean, I'm only 20, so I think what it's allowed me to do is really kind of take a educational approach to the whole thing and grow.
And sometimes it's the chance to change the world.
I'm not making a dime off Firefox, but it's enough for me to get an email from a grandfather in Mississippi telling me that he can finally get on the web and communicate with his grandchildren.
In the short term, 3 of these 4 whiz kids have taken leaves of absence from college to fast-track their projects. But where will they be in the long term? Mark Zuckerberg will probably be right where he is now.
the bigger it gets, the more people we get to interact with, and that's really cool too.
Wayne Chang's i2 Hub project has grown so big that it's created a problem. Students are using his high-speed network to swap movies and music.
The recording industry is worried, so is the motion pictures industry. They've sued about 405 students.
But he says he has a solution. It's still secret at this point, but he says it could change the landscape even more profoundly.
What we'll do, it'll solve the problem of lawsuits. Basically, the entertainment industry as a whole will be very happy, and so will the students.
So this is our office.
Robin Liss has launched a second website called digitalcamerainfo.com, and she plans to launch similar sites for printers and cell phones. But for her, all of this is still just a rite of passage.
I hope to move into the political or public policy sphere where I can help improve people's lives through government.
And what about Blake Ross, the father of Firefox?
I think I've got a couple more years in me in the computer industry. I've actually had these kind of secret ambitions that I want to write either films or novels. So I think life's too short to do anything for too long.
That may be a sound philosophy. After all, no matter how young you are now, there's always somebody younger.
The next generation are these kids that have grown up on the internet, that are turning in their homework via email in first grade. I'm actually frightened to see what they come up with. I really think age is just an illusion. I think that with the internet, people can do absolutely anything they want.
The history of computers has been a steady march towards smaller. Computers were once the size of rooms, then the size of TV sets, then the size of phones.
In fact, computers are now so small, they nestle quite nicely on your wrist. Eat your heart out, Dick Tracy.
6-2 and even, over and out.
A good way to think about a smartwatch is a companion for your smartphone, because a lot of us look at our phone up to 100 times a day. So a smartwatch could actually save you time.
Mark Spoonhour is the editor-in-chief of Laptop Magazine. He's reviewed most of the first smartwatches.
Cool. So, and I want to send you a text message and see if it'll show up on there. Okay?
Sure.
Hey, Mark, you have spinach in your teeth. Oh, I hear something vibrating. Come on! It actually works, huh?
That's right. Although you can't respond from your wrist, that's when you have to get out your phone. So that's why it's more of a companion and not a replacement for your smartphone.
All right, can you give me a show and tell of what the latest are?
Sure. So this is the Pebble Steel. And what we like about this is that there's an available app store for it.
Excuse me, it almost sounds like you said you're going to download apps to your watch.
Yes, you can. And there's some big names behind it, like CNN and ESPN and Yelp. Okay, so this is the Sony Smartwatch 2. There are 300 apps available for this, including Facebook.
You probably haven't seen a lot of smartwatches on real people's wrists. So far, it's been more hype than sales. Maybe it's because they're still so bulky. I mean, it's like wearing a VCR on your wrist. Or maybe it's because you have to charge them every couple of days. Or maybe it's because they're just unnecessary. I mean, you've got your phone right here. How much effort do you really save having the same functions on your wrist? But there is one area where having electronics on your wrist makes tremendous sense, and that's monitoring your health.
This one's actually measuring my galvanic skin response, which is like another word for your sweat.
Bob Troya is part of what's called the quantified self movement, using gadgets to monitor your own health, stress, sleep, and fitness.
I just want to understand all the components that are what constitutes me and what's going to help me become a better person. I've been known to occasionally wear one of these all day.
Bob has embraced this idea of self-tracking in a big way. He has devices that monitor his posture.
You'll feel a little vibration. It's like, hey, sit straight up. Inhale, exhale.
His breathing.
You wear this over your head.
His brain waves during sleep.
Draw a drop of blood.
Among other things. Clearly, there's big money in health tracking gadgets, and that may be the key to building a hit smartwatch. Samsung's first smartwatch, the Gear, was clunky and complicated, but its sequel, the Gear Fit smartwatch, has a secret weapon.
Because there's a heart rate monitor built into the bottom of this device, and it'll read it right from your wrist.
Wow.
Samsung isn't the only tech giant with plans for your wrist. Google has just announced a new operating system for smartwatches.
What's the Siri Q score?
Motorola just announced the first round smartwatch. And then there's Apple. Its watch plans are secret, but it's been hiring fitness and fashion experts. This technology battle has just gotten underway. Analysts expect us to buy 500 million wearable gadgets in the next 4 years.
In other words, this is a battle for much more than just a place on your body. This is a battle for your loyalty, for your data, and for your dollars.
Whoever first said, "Hold the phone," could never have imagined this one. It's an original iPhone, part of the first generation of iPhones that went on sale to much hoopla 10 years ago this coming Thursday. Our cover story is reported by David Pogue, tech critic for Yahoo Finance.
There's been a lot of talk about the soon-to-be-released iPhone.
It's got everything you need, all wrapped up in one.
The Apple Store staying open until midnight to meet the huge demand.
iPhone!
10 years ago this week, the iPhone arrived in stores, and the world hasn't been the same.
I got the iPhone! Check that out!
Because of the iPhone, we now take it for granted that we're on the internet all the time. Because of the iPhone, we have everything in this old Radio Shack ad in our pockets: computer, calculator, camcorder, alarm clock, phone, music player, answering machine, and tape recorder. Because of the iPhone, hardly anyone buys maps anymore, or pocket cameras, or watches. And because of the iPhone, we've become a nation of distracted drivers, distracted walkers, and distracted dinner companions. Until the iPhone, cell phones were clunky. The BlackBerry was king. And Apple co-founder Steve Jobs was working in total secrecy at the company's California headquarters on a device that would soon change all that. In January 2007, he took the stage to unveil it.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone.
That iPhone wouldn't actually go on sale for another 6 months. During that time, nobody outside Apple was allowed to see the phone or touch the phone. The hype machine went into overdrive.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Especially after 40 million viewers saw this commercial on that year's Oscar broadcast. And then, 2 weeks before the phone went on sale, Apple quietly handed iPhones to 4 tech reporters to review: Stephen Levy, then of Newsweek, Ed Begg of USA Today, Walt Mossberg, then of the Wall Street Journal, and me, then of the New York Times.
We had 2 days between the time our review came out and the thing went on sale. I've never been more popular in my life. I wish I had this thing in high school, you know?
In celebration of the iPhone's 10th birthday, the first 4 people outside Apple ever to use an iPhone sat down to reminisce.
Steve called us all while we had it, right?
Yeah.
We were walking down the street.
He called me multiple times a day. How's it going? I go, Steve, it's not the way I do reviews. I'll call you. I said, we'll talk, but don't worry about it.
There was a lot missing from this phone. People forget. It had no front camera. It didn't have a flash for pictures.
It didn't have cut and paste.
Didn't have cut and paste. It couldn't record video, and you couldn't even send a picture as a text message.
And I've got this little keyboard, which is phenomenal. It does.
The most radical aspect of the iPhone was that it was all touchscreen. It had no physical keys for typing.
After 3 days, I was ready to throw this thing out of the window for trying to type on glass. It was just so hard.
It's 10 years later, and half the emails I get still have a little message underneath saying, typed on phone, forgive typos.
That's true.
On the other hand, making the entire phone a screen unleashed a world of possibilities. It was a huge canvas for photos, videos, maps, and web pages. It could change its look for each app. And it meant that Apple could design a whole new way to interact with machines.
Yeah, it's a little cracked screen, but that's the first iPhone.
Wow, it's so tiny. I mean, look at this.
In 2005, Dutch software designer Bas Ording was at Apple designing software experiments for a multi-touch screen, figuring out how you would navigate a computer without a keyboard, mouse, or stylus, just touching things with your finger.
We had to think about, like, how can you type on it, or how can you manipulate images on it, or those kind of things.
Are you saying that the idea of the touch screen came before anyone started putting it on a phone?
Right, yeah, it was before the phone. And at some point, I think probably Steve thought, like, oh, this would be great to put on a phone. So that's when we went in that direction.
Yeah, what is the meaning of this swipe? Am I moving? Part of what made the iPhone a hit was that objects in that touchscreen world have their own physics. That's cool. You can thank Boss Ording for some of it, like how lists have momentum when you flick them, or how they do a little bounce when you get to the end. And now 1 billion people are using your idea.
Is it 1 billion? That's a lot. That's okay. Wow, that's
I mean, does that ever freak you out?
A little bit, I guess, if you really think about it that way. But it's also pretty cool, I guess. If people like to use it, then I think that's a good thing. So.
Did anyone at the time on this team have any idea how big this could be?
Oh, no, not at all. I didn't, for sure.
What's great about the iPhone is that if you want to check snow conditions on the mountain, there's an app for that.
A year after the iPhone came out, Apple introduced the App Store, a central catalog of free or cheap little programs written by programmers all over the world. That's when iPhone sales really went through the stratosphere.
And if you want to check where exactly you parked the car, there's even an app for that.
And just those apps have launched entire industries. Think of Uber, the ride-sharing company valued at $68 billion. Or Instagram, which Facebook bought in 2012 for $1 billion. These days, of course, the iPhone isn't the only game in town.
Hey, man.
Oh, hey.
How's it going? Saved you a spot. I moved on. But you're not going to miss all this?
I got the Samsung GS3 now.
In 2008, Google created a look-alike phone design called Android, which it gives away to phone makers. Today, Android phones outsell the iPhone. A lot of people say since Steve Jobs died 6 years ago, they don't have this idea man anymore. Is Apple sunsetting now? Are they done with innovation?
How often can you come out with something that changes the world? I mean, we're all unfair perhaps in the media sometimes. Oh, they haven't had a hit lately. Well, who else has had a hit lately?
So on its 10th birthday, it's time to ask, where does the iPhone fall on the scale of humanity's greatest inventions? Is it right up there with the television? The car? Electricity? Fire? Hard to say, but millions of people would agree the iPhone changed everything.
We don't have Steve Jobs around to ask. We would all be getting interviews with him now, not because of the 10th anniversary, but I don't think he foresaw the hugeness of it, and I don't think anybody did.
Seems there's always something new in today's technology to improve on the old-fashioned rotary phone. David Pogue of Yahoo Finance sizes up 2 of the latest offerings.
If you're a gadget freak like me, and who isn't, this is a great time to be alive. Samsung has just unveiled its super deluxe, state-of-the-art new smartphone, the Galaxy Note 8. And Apple has just unveiled its super deluxe flagship phone, the iPhone X. That's a Roman numeral for added fanciness. The new Samsung has 2 camera lenses on the back, one regular and one zoom, just like the iPhone had last year. And the new iPhone has an edge-to-edge screen, so you get more screen in less body, just like last year's Samsung. The new Samsung, you can handwrite animated doodles and send them to people, just like the iPhone had last year. And you can charge the new iPhone by setting it on a pad without plugging in a cable. And you can unlock it with your face, just like last year's Samsung. Both of these phones represent huge leaps in speed and gorgeousness. They're both top-of-the-line expensive phones, around $1,000. And both phones are becoming identical. Where is the outrage, people? These companies are just ripping each other off. On the other hand, do we care? I mean, when you buy a phone, you're not just buying a phone. You're buying an ecosystem. You're buying Apple's or Microsoft's or Google's whole world of interconnected products. Phone, laptop, software, music store, payment system. And it's not easy to switch ecosystems. You have to rebuy all your apps. You have to relearn how to do everything. So look, of course we all love innovation and fresh ideas. But even when these companies are stealing ideas from each other, it's all good. It just means that your team won't be left behind when the other team scores a breakthrough.
My head's been in the cloud. Bet you've been there too. But where is this cloud, that enigmatic entity storing our data on the internet? David Pogue of Yahoo Finance knows and tells all in our Sunday morning cover story.
These days, you can't walk through an airport, read a magazine, or open a computer without seeing ads for the cloud.
The cloud, where everyone can access everything they save from anywhere they are.
The ads clearly suggest that the cloud is desirable, but what they don't say is what the cloud is. Well, here's the basic idea. In the beginning, we all kept our own stuff on our own computers. In the new world of the cloud, though, your computer files don't have to be on your computer. They can be stored out on the internet, alongside everyone else's, in huge centralized buildings called data centers. Your computer or phone can then fetch your files on the spot, wherever you happen to be. Now, you may have encountered the cloud as a synchronizing service. For example, Apple's iCloud service. If I edit this photo on my Apple laptop, maybe make it black and white, maybe crop in on it, a couple of seconds later, I'll see the exact same changes show up on that photo on my Apple phone. Now, these two devices are not directly connected. Instead, that data made an intermediate hop. In a fraction of a second, it comes here to a massive data center, and then it returned to the phone. Most of the time, though, you use the cloud without knowing it, because most of those cloud data centers exist to serve companies.
So it could be retail, it could be real estate, healthcare, life sciences, oil and gas, everything from small initial startups right through to the very, very largest enterprises.
Matt Wood is a general manager at Amazon Web Services, or AWS. It's by far the biggest cloud service company in the world, bigger than its next 14 competitors combined. So all of these industries, all of these companies are hiring AWS to do what?
Let's say you're a brewery. They want to brew beer. They don't want to manage computers, they want to brew beer. They don't want to be going through the expense and the upfront cost and all the complexity of managing these large amounts of computers.
What you're saying is that cloud companies like AWS are basically renting computers, storage, power, security, all the stuff that technicians would have normally had to do on site, right?
That's right, yeah. And so today, very large organizations such as GE, Shell, Philips, Netflix, all run on top of AWS.
If you'd like to see what the cloud looks like, all you have to do is visit a data center, like this one belonging to Raging Wire in Virginia. But good luck getting in.
This is a retinal scanner, and this one's kind of interesting because this one's smart enough to know whether my eyeball is alive or not. So that means you can't take another eyeball and hold it up to here.
Well, darn, because I was sort of hoping to kill you and sneak in.
It's not going to work here.
Fortunately, marketing director Jim Leach agreed to give me a tour.
Oh, this is called a man trap.
Man trap.
And the secret here is that one door has to close and lock before the other door can open.
Once you get past the concrete barriers, the armed guards, the retina scanner, the man trap, and 9 password-protected doors, you find out what's inside a data center. Just racks and racks and racks of powerful computers. This is the internet.
This is the internet, this is the cloud. Basically, in this room, ballpark, there's about 3 million websites running right now.
For security reasons, they'll never tell you whose websites. But every site and app you've ever heard of, Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, Uber, Airbnb, the New York Times, even CBS News, lives in data center cages like this one.
All right, I gotta ask, what happens in a power failure?
It's backed up by batteries that can run the entire facility for about 10 minutes while we turn on these massive generators that can run continuously.
This data center is in Loudoun County, Virginia, which turns out not to be much of a surprise.
70% of all web traffic on a daily basis from the world goes through a Loudoun County data center.
Come on!
70%.
Buddy Reiser is the county's head of business development. He's helped turn Loudoun County into the largest concentration of data centers in the world, 10 million square feet in 70 enormous buildings.
What do the data centers need and how do we provide it? And it comes down to power and water and fiber and workforce and proximity. And I think the other thing you need is plenty of green space to build, because these are really big buildings, as you can see.
But hold on a second. If we're concentrating all of our data into data centers and concentrating most of the data centers into one county, doesn't that make a very tempting target for terrorists? Amazon's Matt Wood isn't worried.
If something does happen, or we have a power event, or there's a flood in one specific location, that data is held redundantly in other locations as well. So
I don't mean to give anyone ideas, but let's say I figured out that one of these unmarked buildings was an AWS data center, and I blew it up. Are you saying that it's so backed up and redundant that probably wouldn't notice?
Yeah, you wouldn't notice. I mean, we might be a bit upset, but we wouldn't notice.
Okay, so the cloud offers speed, security, flexibility, and savings to the world's businesses. But that doesn't mean it's flawless.
A really obvious example is that the cloud uses a massive amount of power.
Tung-Wei Hu is a University of Michigan professor and author of A Prehistory of the Cloud.
Greenpeace calculated that if you added up all these data centers, they would be the 5th most power-hungry country in the world. They're idle 96% of the time, and the reason is because they're waiting for that.
What are?
Data centers are just computers sitting around doing nothing for 96% of the time. And that's because they're waiting for a spike in traffic. They're waiting for the next music video to go viral. It's those exceptional moments which they have to build the capacity for it, but most of the time nothing really happens on the internet besides a lot of cat videos.
And then there's all the secrecy.
We don't know anything about what Amazon or Google really does with their data. We have to take their word for it. In fact, if anything, we sign away half of our rights to these data because the cloud is this strange way of letting the companies decide what happens to the data that you have.
But even Professor Hu admits that the cloud is here to stay. Amazon's AWS is on track to make $16 billion this year, dwarfing the part of Amazon that most people know, the part that sells books and things. AWS is growing at 40% a year, and Loudoun County can't build data centers fast enough. Buddy Reiser says there are 7 new ones under construction right now.
And how long will it take them to build that?
Probably under 2 years.
Are you saying that this kind of construction is being built to anticipate the demand a couple years from now, or is there already enough demand to fill this?
This is 100% leased already. I mean, it's not getting ahead. We're just barely keeping up. There's no empty space in our data centers. By and large, they're all 100% filled.
This small chip does what it used to take a huge computer to do. Its story dates to a year that David Pogue reminds us isn't exactly known for its good times.
In many ways, 1968 is famous for its tragedies, assassinations, conflicts, and war. But 1968 also gave birth to something amazing, the era of fast, cheap, ubiquitous electronics. Because 50 years ago, this past week, 2 middle-aged engineers quit their jobs to start a new company called Intel.
In 1968, Gordon Moore dropped by Bob Noyce's house. Bob was mowing the lawn. They were discussing the state of their current jobs, as well as the possibility of a new industry.
Elizabeth Jones is Intel's archivist. She runs the Intel Museum in Santa Clara, California.
And
Apparently Bob said, yeah, that's a good idea.
He did, and on July 18th, 1968, Intel was incorporated.
At his previous company, Fairchild Semiconductor, Noyce had co-invented the integrated circuit, a way to etch all the circuits in that era's room-sized computers onto a tiny slice of silicon.
We have Intel's first product. It's a memory chip called the 3101.
Okay, and before that, how did they make memory?
It's this larger device up on top called core memory.
Smaller also meant faster and easier to make. This plant near Portland, Oregon, one of Intel's oldest, is what a chip factory looks like today. No TV crew has ever been allowed inside before.
Do you have this in a khaki?
No, I'm sorry.
Aisha Evans, Intel's chief strategy officer, showed me how to put on the so-called bunny suit. That's her on the left.
I did take a thorough shower this morning. Why was all this necessary?
We want maximum purity as the material is being assembled.
Each shiny round sheet of silicon fits about 500 identical chips, which will be cut apart and installed into the microprocessors, the electronic brains, that control just about everything in our lives with an on switch. Each chip is etched with impossibly small channels of circuitry, only 10 millionths of an inch wide.
And so, who gets to etch those tiny, is it some little Swiss watchmaker with a magnifying glass?
Robots.
So how would you say the making of silicon chips has changed in 50 years?
You know what? The basic principles and fundamentals haven't changed at all. Just a lot more automation, a lot more complexity, and also more layers.
I see, and that's to get more circuitry into less space.
That's exactly right.
Getting more circuitry into less space is the whole point of Moore's law. That's Gordon Moore's prediction, way back in 1965, that we'd be able to double the amount of circuitry, meaning power and memory, that can be crammed onto a chip about every year and a half. He's basically been right for all 50 years.
Now, you know that Moore's law is actually not a law of physics. It's the result of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people making ongoing improvements in reducing the width of these lines that are printed on the integrated circuits.
John Doerr started working at Intel in 1974. Today, as chairman of Kleiner Perkins, he's one of the world's most successful venture capitalists.
Yeah, someone once said if this applied to automobiles today, cars would cost a few pennies, they'd get thousands of miles per gallon, and we wouldn't even remember where we parked them. We'd just leave them there again and get another one.
In the beginning, Intel made computer memory, chips for storing information. But things really took off in 1971 when Bob Noyce invented microprocessors, that is, chips that could process information. And then,
with this tool for modern times,
IBM came along.
IBM chose to base its personal computer on Intel's architecture.
And had IBM chosen some other company's chip,
Intel probably wouldn't be here today.
The makeup of the company started with the founders. And they said these simple words back 50 years ago: don't be encumbered by the past. Go and do something wonderful.
Bob Swan is Intel's interim CEO.
And there's another saying that associated with this company, which is only the paranoid survive.
We're always looking, always worried, always curious who's doing something else. And if we're not worried about them, they will catch up to us.
It hasn't all been smooth sailing. The company famously missed the boat on making the processors for smartphones like the iPhone. Then, as PC sales began to slip, Intel had to lay off thousands of workers over the years. But today, Intel says it's determined to be ready for whatever comes next. The company is investing in self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, and other futuristic tech. Like drones. That's Anil Nanduri's division. His team specializes in making elaborate, automated flying light shows, like this one at the Winter Olympics in South Korea.
What we're seeing is hundreds or thousands of this actual drone, right?
This is the exact drone that flew at the Olympics in Pyeongchang. There's no cameras or anything else. It only has an LED light.
A week ago, in honor of Intel's big birthday, his team set a Guinness World Record. Over 2,000 drones flying simultaneously, forming these images in the night sky. And every single one of them contains a tiny rectangle of etched silicon, like the ones designed by Bob Noyce and Gordon Moore half a century ago.
Amazon calls them fulfillment centers, warehouses nationwide where every order is picked up then packed up, with a little help from an unlikely cast of characters, as David Pogue will show us.
Last year, we spent $386 billion on stuff from Amazon. That's half of all our online spending. And the bigger Amazon gets, the more unwelcome attention it gets for its workplace conditions.
Working for Amazon is a highly dangerous job, much more than working for its big box competitors.
They deny us good working conditions.
Especially from employees like Jennifer Bates, who testified before a Senate committee.
My workday feels like a 9-hour intense workout every day, and they track our every move.
Now, Amazon points out that its warehouse workers make over twice the national minimum wage and get full medical benefits and a company-matched 401k plan. But this headline must have really hurt. According to the government, Amazon workers were seriously injured about twice as often last year as employees in other warehouses.
Safety is our top priority with our employees. So in 2020, we invested over $1 billion into safety and programs and processes around movement and ergonomics. This year, we are doing an additional $300 million investment.
Kevin Keck is Amazon's Director of Advanced Technology. His team invited us to spend a day in the company's secret technology facility near Seattle. Clearly, Amazon wants to demonstrate that it's working on the safety problem.
I understand that not a lot of TV crews have come through here.
Yeah, none.
None. So why is it in your interest to show the public what you're working on?
Because people can see that we are truly innovating and investing in technology to help our employees in their safety and comfort.
For starters, how are the injuries happening in the first place?
About 40% of our injuries are musculoskeletal. Sprains and strains and things that come from repetitive motion.
Megan Huden is the facility's product development director. To study exactly how workers move, her team straps 17 orange transmitters onto employees of various shapes and sizes.
David, now that you're in the suit, you can see your data displayed on screen.
I tried on the motion capture suit too.
Yeah, you see your movements. The one on the right is your right shoulder, and the one on the left is how your back is moving. So when you bend, when you twist, when you move side to side, it's understanding how you're moving.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
This experiment has already revealed one way that Amazon can reduce injuries, just by adjusting the handle positions on the crates, known as totes, that move Amazon orders around the warehouses. This tote's handle positions prevent you from lifting over your head.
Oh, you don't want people lifting?
No, it's actually much safer to keep the weight below your shoulders.
Oh, okay.
So let's try a tote that has a different handle positioning on that short side.
Wouldn't this one with these holes be more convenient because I don't have to reach all the way across? I can just, like that?
Actually, no. The sensor on your hand is telling us that your left wrist is rotated much farther than what is safe for any amount of time.
It's because it's underhand instead of overhand.
That's right.
Yeah.
Robots play a huge role in Amazon's warehouses, which it calls fulfillment centers. Low rider robots bring stacks of bins over to employees who fish out what you've ordered and send it off to be packaged. But the human work involves a lot of reaching up and bending down, which contributes to repetitive motion injuries. Amazon's solution? A new robot, the big yellow one you can see here, known as Ernie. Amazon's new robots are named for Sesame Street characters.
The robot uses its arm to select the tote, pull it off the shelf, and then the conveyance brings that directly to Teresa. Teresa is no longer having to step up and reach into a bin to get product or bend down and pull product out.
What is it that Teresa needs to do that a robot couldn't do?
Teresa has to discern what product to pick. The monitor tells her what she's looking for, but that container could be full of multiple kinds of product.
Now, in most warehouses, safety cages separate the robots from the people. But robotics director Kevin Keck showed us some robot prototypes.
Let's just stop right there.
That can share the same space with people.
Kermit is an autonomous guided cart, or AGC, that we developed to help with this process of moving empty totes. Kermit follows this line. So let's test the safety system. I'll let you do the honors of setting the cone out on Kermit's path.
Good luck with that, Kermit.
And Kermit stopped. There's something in its way. Kermit sees that we're all out of the way, and off he goes.
Crisis averted.
For heavier cargo, Amazon will soon unleash a more substantial self-driving robot called Scooter.
If you imagine going from an airplane to a trailer on the other side of a building, an employee would then push that cart across. We thought, hey, we can automate that.
But perhaps Keck's proudest prototype is this little guy.
This is Bert. This is pretty early technology. You're the first one to see it, as a matter of fact.
And what is Bert carrying usually?
Bert will carry packages, totes, and if an employee needed to take something to the other side of the building, they would say, I need a Bert, and a Bert would come over and take it to where it needs to go.
Bert doesn't need lines on the floor. It uses artificial intelligence and LiDAR, laser pulses, to see the world around it.
I'm gonna be somebody on my phone, not paying attention, and I'm gonna... Hey, nice job. Your thing works.
It works. It's pretty great tech.
In fact, Amazon says that robots like Bert and Ernie are the most advanced warehouse robots in the world. But not because they get the job done faster.
They're slower than people, but they're a lot safer. So we think that's a good trade-off.
Now, to a critic, all of these robots in the room might seem to ignore the elephant in the room, that Amazon's injury rate is high, not because it doesn't have enough robots, but because the company sets too demanding a pace for its workers. Amazon told us, we are committed to giving employees the resources they need to be successful, creating time for regular breaks and a comfortable pace, and working directly with anyone who needs additional support to meet their goals.
So far, what I've seen here today are robots saving people from doing more stuff. And is the end goal of that to get rid of the people entirely?
Now, we approach automation and robotics around working together with people and helping people and benefiting them. Since 2012, when we started first deploying robotics broadly here at Amazon, we've put in 350,000 robots. In that same time, we have over 1 million jobs that we've created, and we're still hiring.
Keck says that all the investments in warehouse safety are beginning to pay off.
We did see in 2020, in the category of musculoskeletal disorders, through programs that we had launched, that we had reduced by 32%, which is pretty incredible.
And what's the goal by 2025?
It's to cut it by 50%, recordable injuries by 50%.
Wow, and you're putting that out there, so we can come back in a few years and see how you did.
Yep, I hope all the technology I showed you here today helps contribute to that success.
All right, so June 1st, 2025, this spot.
Let's do it.
The internet has changed our lives in so many ways, but sometimes it seems all that content is here today, gone tomorrow. Enter the Wayback Machine. David Pogue takes us on a journey back in time.
David Samuel plays viola in a San Francisco string quartet, but he almost didn't make it into this country.
I'm a Canadian citizen and therefore needed a work visa if I was coming to the United States, an artist visa.
That visa required special documentation.
I was tasked with finding old programs, articles, interviews, anything that could demonstrate that I had contributed significantly to the field.
Unfortunately, most of that stuff had disappeared from the internet over the years.
And somebody said, oh, you should check out the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine.
The Wayback Machine is a time machine for the web.
Mark Graham is the Wayback Machine's director.
It does that by going and looking at web pages, hundreds of millions of them every single day right now, and stores them in our servers.
The Wayback Machine has been making backup copies of the World Wide Web since 1996.
coming up on 900 billion web pages backed up. It's free and public. Start at archive.org. Now you can see what the New York Times looked like in 1996, or what Netflix looked like when it was a DVD by mail company, or what your own website looked like whenever. About 1 million people a day use the Wayback Machine.
Journalists, fact checkers, politicians, policy makers, students.
I think it's a surprise to most people that web pages are as fleeting as they actually are.
It's kind of a cruel joke to call them a page. The average life of a web page is 100 days before it's changed or deleted.
Computer scientist Brewster Kahle created the Wayback Machine in 1996.
There it is!
As part of a nonprofit called the Internet Archive. Its San Francisco headquarters do look the part.
It's a beautiful building.
But I mean, it screams your mission, you know, this is a temple of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Inside, you'll find the original pews, slightly creepy statues of everyone who's ever worked for the Internet Archive, and banks and banks and banks of computers.
So is it like, that's a hard drive, that's a hard drive, that's a hard drive, that's a hard drive?
Exactly right. This is about 1/20th of the servers that are one copy of the Internet Archive, and then there are multiple copies to keep it safe.
But Brewster Kahle wants to back up more than just the web. He wants to back up everything.
Can we get all of the published works of humankind available to anybody curious enough to have access to it?
He's backing up old music and old video games.
Oregon Trail, Prince of Persia, an early Pac-Man.
And TV shows.
We have maybe the world's biggest VCR. Eliza, we've got some new books.
And books. And everything Kahle backs up, he makes free online. Even the obscure stuff, like vintage game shows, knitting magazines, and pet rock manuals. You can even check out the books he's scanned as though from a library. And that's where the trouble begins.
The publishers decided to sue the Internet Archive over lending books. The music publishers are suing for $400 million.
If they win these cases, could that end the Internet Archive?
Yes.
The Association of American Publishers declined an interview, but wrote to us, there is simply no legal justification for copying millions of copyrighted books, changing them into ebooks, and distributing them to the public, all without getting permission.
We'll see how it all turns out. It's being fought out in the courts.
The publishers won their lawsuit against Kahle's operation. He's filed an appeal. The record company's lawsuit is pending. In happier news, violist David Samuel did wind up finding every concert program, interview, and article he needed for his visa on the Wayback Machine.
And even some stuff that I had forgotten about. And I received my green card just a few months ago in September.
Wow. Well, welcome to America.
Author and contributor David Sedaris has thoughts about just how we talk to our phones.
I was in a restaurant when the fellow at the next table picked up his phone. "Siri," he commanded, "call Paul Bauer." Oh, right, I thought. That could be done. By other people, I mean. The first thing I do when getting a new phone or iPad is to disconnect Siri. In part because she's so maddeningly obsequious, but mainly because she feels like cheating. A shortcut to what's already a pretty extraordinary shortcut. If I want to know how many vodka tonics it might take to kill someone my older sister's height and weight, the least I can do is type the questions into Google. The way you talk to a person says a lot about you, of course, but so too does the way you talk to a device. I think of all the people I know who will use a GPS, rely on it for everything, then turn on it when they near their destination. Will you shut up already? Then there are those like my friend Patsy. The two of us were driving from Nashville to Knoxville not long ago and decided to stop midway so I could see where she went to college. "Hey Siri," she said in a tone that suggested fun, "can you get me directions to Swanee, Tennessee?" In what seemed to me like no time at all, Siri answered, "I can't find that." "The University of the South," Patsy said, "in Swanee, Tennessee? I can't find that." Patsy lowered her voice and turned to me. "She does this all the time now." I whispered back, "It seems to me like she's not even trying." "Siri," Patsy said, "can you please get me directions to—" She named a town that was close to Swanee, figuring we could make it from there to the college on our own. When Siri came back with the information, Patsy thanked her with what seemed like genuine gratitude. Mixed into it was a hint of pride, the sort you feel when you're patient with a terribly old person or someone who's new on the job and hasn't quite figured out the register. If Siri was a person, you knew that Patsy would give her a big bonus at Christmas, and that Siri would use that money to fly home for the holidays and say, when asked about work by her parents, "My boss, she's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I really like her."
David Pogue this morning tells us all about the surprising resurrection of an infamous nuclear power plant and the tech giant funding its unlikely comeback.
It might have seemed like one of the weirder headlines of 2024. Microsoft is paying $1.6 billion to restart 3 Mile Island.
Radioactive xenon gas is still being discharged.
That's the nuclear power plant whose reactor number 2 had a partial meltdown in 1979.
A government official said that a breakdown in an atomic power plant in Pennsylvania today is probably the worst nuclear reactor accident to date.
There were no injuries and nobody died, but it set the nuclear industry back years. Only 2 new plants have been started since that accident.
This is hallowed ground in the nuclear industry. This is a place where we learned and got better.
So they did make change in protocols and procedures as a result of that accident?
Thousands, oh my God, yes. The one behind it, that was the reactor where we had the problem.
Joe Dominguez is the CEO of Constellation Energy, which owns about half of America's 54 nuclear plants, including 3 Mile Island.
But the thing that people forget is that there was another reactor at the site, the one we're sitting in. That site, that reactor continued to operate until 2019 when it was closed for economic reasons.
Meaning because natural gas got so cheap?
Cheap natural gas, low demand, subsidization of different technologies in the business, no policy supporting nuclear, caused plants to start retiring.
So what is Microsoft's interest? All the big tech companies have ambitious goals to fight the climate crisis. That includes Google.
Today I'm proud to announce that we intend to become the first major company to operate carbon-free.
And Microsoft.
By 2030, Microsoft will be carbon negative.
They were making progress too. Each has invested billions in wind and solar energy. And then artificial intelligence came along. AI data centers require huge amounts of electricity. Big tech realized that they wouldn't make their goals without taking power into their own hands.
Microsoft is going to enjoy the benefit of the reliable, clean energy for 20 years.
Is restarting this facility quicker and less expensive than just building a brand new nuclear plant?
Oh, yeah. At least 10 times cheaper than building a new plant. And we think we could get it going in about 3 years versus the last plant that was built took almost 10 years.
But if you're a tech company, what do you do if you don't have a recently retired nuclear plant handy? You develop new ones. Only weeks after Microsoft's announcement, both Amazon and Google announced major investments in nuclear power.
This is a deal to bring the first advanced nuclear reactor online by 2030, and we're not going to do just one reactor, but we hope to buy from what will be a series of reactors that follow that.
Michael Terrell heads Google's decarbonization efforts.
Google is supplementing its already enormous green energy investments with a new kind of nuclear called small modular reactors.
These are not the nuclear power plants of yesterday with the very large cooling towers. These are much smaller facilities, but because they're modular, you can stack them together to make bigger power plants.
Nuclear power isn't perfect. It still produces waste that has to be safely stored. But unlike solar and wind, nuclear is always on, which is essential to those AI data centers. So Google is funding a company called Kairos Power to design and build this new generation of reactors.
What we're building right now, and you can see the construction for, will be the facility that holds our 3rd engineering test units.
Kairos is building 3 small demonstration plants in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, on the very spot where uranium was processed for the first atomic bomb. CEO Mike Laufer says that his reactors don't use fuel rods. They use fuel pebbles, like this mock-up.
It's mostly graphite, and then these little particles right here, these are basically the tiny kernels of uranium that have the coatings.
And how much power capacity is there in one of these pebbles?
This is about the same as 4 tons of coal.
4 tons of coal?
4 tons.
And how much carbon dioxide emissions compared to the coal?
Oh, 0.
The Kairos reactors also run at lower power and lower pressure than traditional reactors, which means lower risk. Well, this all sounds great. What's the catch?
There's only one problem with small modular reactors. They don't really exist.
George Washington University professor Sharon Squassoni spent 15 years researching nuclear safety for the government. She thinks the big tech companies might be in over their heads.
I think they're going to find out pretty quickly that it takes way too long and it's way too expensive. I think we're going to see just how strong their commitments are to, clean energy.
So you're saying they may have to turn to burning stuff?
I'm pretty sure they will.
Do you think there's a little bit of tech bro overconfidence there?
Oh, completely.
So yes, it's really hard. I will totally agree with anyone.
Kairos' Mike Laufer.
But we're doing it at smaller scale to start and then building on that in the future.
How much of what's here is still usable after all these years?
Oh, it's all usable.
Joe Dominguez's team is getting 3 Mile Island ready for Microsoft.
It's this blend of old and new that's really...
Including renaming the plant, the Crane Clean Energy Center. And if AI is igniting a renaissance in American nuclear, he says full steam ahead. Why do all new plants take so much longer and cost so much more than projected?
Honest answer, we don't build enough of them. You don't want to build a unique design. You want to do kind of a cookie cutter, one after another design.
Now, is it well understood in government and the industry that, dudes, if you start doing the same design over and over, we can get there faster and cheaper?
It's probably the best understood idea.
Oh.
And it's understood by both Republicans and Democrats, which is a hard thing to say about anything. But sure, everybody understands that if you build a common design, you build a bunch of them.
So you think we'll get there?
I do.
Google's Michael Terrell agrees. As of 2030, does it look like you'll make the zero carbon goal?
It is an incredibly ambitious goal. 24/7 carbon-free energy everywhere we operate, everywhere around the world. But it's something we're working very hard to achieve, and we hope to get there.
We begin this morning with David Pogue and a milestone birthday for a company that is among the most profitable, influential, and scrutinized in the world.
At this moment, 2.5 billion people own Apple products, a population bigger than China's.
I had to ride my bike through cherry orchards just to get to elementary school. There was nobody here.
But it all started on a sidewalk near Cupertino, California. Is it accurate to say that the story of Apple kind of began on this spot?
Well, it kind of started when I was born.
In 1971, engineering prodigy Steve Wozniak met a charismatic, rebellious high schooler named Steve Jobs.
We met right here, and who was to know there was going to be a company in the future.
In 1975, few people had ever even seen a computer, but Woz built one. It was little more than a circuit board, and Jobs proposed selling it.
Steve Jobs wanted a company, and he did it, and I was his resource.
They sold 150 of Woz's first computer.
So I am proud to introduce to you
They sold 6 million of his second.
the revolutionary Apple II.
It was so far above any of the other computers coming out. We didn't foresee the future the way it turned out, but we said, for today, we're taking a step forward ahead of others.
Apple took a very big step forward in 1984.
Now I'd like to show you Macintosh in person.
The Macintosh was Jobs' passion project, the first affordable computer with a mouse, menus, and friendly graphics.
But darker times were ahead. After a power struggle with CEO John Sculley, Steve Jobs left Apple for 11 years. The company began sliding into irrelevance.
Yeah, it was bleak, to be honest. The company had very little cash, and we had lost our way.
After Jobs returned in 1997, he hired Tim Cook as his new head of operations.
I saw in Steve something I'd never seen in a CEO before. He is a once in 1,000 years kind of person.
The opportunity is so great.
Jobs and his team pulled off what's widely regarded as the greatest turnaround in business history.
You know, we basically completely restructured the company and set it on the path for where it is today.
John Rubinstein was Jobs' new head of hardware.
What was it like working with him?
He could be absolutely brutal. He wanted to get the best out of the team, and he wanted us to do, the impossible sometimes. And, we would pull it off.
Jobs and chief designer Johnny Ive met every day to obsess over the details of their products' designs.
We're here, and I'd like to show you what this thing looks like. Come on in.
And a golden age began.
This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool.
The iMac became the best-selling computer in history. The iTunes Store was the first successful online music store, and it turned the music industry upside down.
What is iPod? iPod is an MP3 music player.
And the iPod was the first Apple product to sell in the hundreds of millions.
There were hundreds of songs in the iPod. So what were you going to do? Just like by hand, clicking 100 times? And instead, if you scroll the wheel.
Paola Antonelli is a curator of design at MoMA, New York's Museum of Modern Art.
There are many, many Apple products in the MoMA collection, dozens of them. Definitely, there's a pleasure. There's really a moment of wonder. And design is for all of us. And Apple's success is a testament to that.
And then, in 2007, Steve Jobs announced 3 new products.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it?
They got it. It was 3 devices in one, the iPhone.
I just take my finger and I scroll.
Nobody had ever before touched their data. The iPhone changed everything. It became our camera, our TV, our newspaper, our game console. It gave rise to Uber, Airbnb, DoorDash, Venmo, and Tinder. And it fueled the rise of social media, raising concerns about screen time, mental health, and isolation.
It's so much more intimate than a laptop.
In 2010, the iPad was another massive hit.
And it's so much more capable than a
But Steve Jobs was dying. As he succumbed to pancreatic cancer, Jobs asked Cook to succeed him as CEO.
He called me over to his house, and his advice to me was never ask what I would do, just do the right thing. And I'll never forget that.
For Cook, the right thing was a new emphasis on sustainability and inclusiveness. and a deep dive into services like Apple Pay, Apple TV, and Apple Music, which now generate over $100 billion a year. Since Cook took over, Apple has roughly tripled in size, and its stock is up 1,600%.
You guys changed the world multiple times with the work you were doing.
It wasn't what we set out to do. We set out to save the company. But it's what the side benefit of that was we changed the world.
But challenges lie ahead. A reliance on China for its manufacturing, the threat of presidential tariffs, and the perception that Apple is lagging in artificial intelligence.
It was all about collaboration. And
But Cook believes that Apple's traditional values will see it through.
Are there any values and principles in place today that date all the way back to the two Steves?
Ideas about building something insanely great was there in the early days. That you say no to 1,000 things, to say yes to the one that's truly important. And that when you do something, you should do it at an excellence level that isn't where good isn't good enough.
Steve Wozniak would agree.
Apple's reputation definitely is, sprung from us and the culture. It's hard to be 100% perfect, but I still admire Apple the most of all the tech companies.
If you had to say it in brief, what has Apple's effect on the world been?
It's the sum of what everyone has done with all of the products that we've made. The artists, it's the musicians, it's the everyday people who have done remarkable things to change the world. That's the reason we look forward to the next 50 and the next 100.